we go. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Nothing in this universe will ever last. So if you're feeling low, this too shall pass. Nothing in this universe will ever last. So if you're feeling low, this too shall pass. Because everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. When the darkness seems to hide your way, after every night, a brand new day. Even when the darkness seems to hide your way, after every night, a brand new day. A brand new day. A sunny day. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la-la. Oh yeah. Sha-la-la-la-la, sha-la-la-la-la-la. Even when it all just seems to go your way, don't get attached, it's gonna change. Even when it all just seems to go your way, don't get attached, it's gonna change. But that's okay, because everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. It's not the end. It's not the end. So if you don't like the weather, don't worry. It's not the end. It's not the end. If you don't like the government, it's alright. It's not the end. It's not the end. This is the end.
I am here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, the greater good of all. I am here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all. You are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, the greater good of all. You are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all. We are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, the greater good of all. We are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all. for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, the greater good of all. I am here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all. You are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, greater good of all. You are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all. We are here for the greater good of all, greater good of all, the greater good of all. We are here for the greater good of all, the greater good of all, greater good of all, greater good of all.
I was always rushing everywhere, going from town to town, playing my music, living my dream, when suddenly the world shut down. The virus hit us just like that. I didn't know what I'd do, but I quickly found out love and kindness was gonna get me through. Love and kindness, hearts that give. This is what guides us, the best way we can live. Things won't be this way forever. Let's stay strong and hold it together with love and kindness each and every day. So many of us have been hurting, so many of us are unsure. Will we ever go back to normal? Will they ever find a cure? I thank God each day that I wake up that my loved ones are still here. I have faith and I have hope. I won't be ruled by fear. I choose love and kindness, hearts that give. This is what guides us, the best way we can live. Things won't be this way forever. Let's stay strong and hold it together with love and kindness each and every day. This all happened for a reason, there's no doubt in my mind. This is the changing season, we must leave our ways behind. I believe in love and kindness, hearts that give. This is what guides us, the best way we can live. Things won't be this way forever. Let's stay strong and hold it together with love and kindness each and every day. Love and kindness each and every day.
So he want another trip with things you've always the different one. Ready to shine. A purpose to rainbow. So ways going to see. Landing with the way. Reach down and up to the one and only truth. My soul is open. Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to the People of Diversity Multi-Faith Virtual Community. We have 10 different faith perspectives, 10 different speakers, as well as 10 different sets of musicians. And at the beginning of each 10-week series, we give them a topic. So each speaker and each set of musicians takes their turn and sends in videos that relate to that topic. And we do the hello and goodbye and send it all to Philip and his tech team, and they put it together and produce what you're watching now. So if you would like to join us in this effort and keep this thing going, train rolling, go to www.peopleofdiversity.org and push that donate button. We pay our speakers, we pay our musicians, and we pay our tech team, plus all the other expenses of basically running a business. And and we tithe, the pod tithes. So every bit helps, and we appreciate it. So go there and push that donate button. Thank you.
All right. So last week we heard from Rabbi Pat Hickman and our dear friend Jennifer Farron. And this week we will hear our talk on compassion from Sensei David Vititoe. And his musical accompaniment will be Keith Leon. Now, Keith's family has had a loss, so we're sending him and his family lots of love and compassion and strength as they grieve. So he will be sending us 2 videos from past performances. Well, you'll get the love from Keith. It's always amazing when he steps up to the mic. Next week we have Reverend Lydia Junis coming to us from New York, and our new musician Leanne Nelson Allen will be joining us for her first endeavor into this crazy community, and we're excited to hear from her. So past services are available on the People of Diversity Facebook group and on the page. That's also how you get notifications on Sunday morning, and how you can tap into past services as far as archived over the past 4 years. So if you'll tap into that resource, then you don't have to remember. And for me, that's really important. Right after the morning service from 11:45 to 12:15, we do a deep dive. The link for that is in the post. The password is truth if it's needed. And it's an opportunity for us to share, bounce stuff around, chat. Dave often joins us for that process, so you can look forward to bouncing some of the questions that might come up during his talk off of him. From 5:45 in the evening on Sunday night, we run a second service, a rebroadcasting of the morning service. So if you were doing your own church, or you were out at the beach, or you were sleeping in, then you can catch it again. Join us there, and we can meet in the comments and shoot hearts and hang out, and that's always fun. I think that is everything that I know about everything. No, it's not. There's more that I know. We now have a YouTube channel.
There you go.
10:30. It goes live, so if you subscribe to the People of Diversity YouTube channel, you can interact on the chat on YouTube. So if Facebook's not your thing, then join us on YouTube, and we'll hang out there. Monday afternoons, that goes to archive, gets a pretty new picture, and gets some labels so that you can search in that
Playlist.
Yes, in that platform, on the playlist, both by faith or by topic. Now that's all I know.
Okay. Each week we bless a country. So if you have any information about the country that we are blessing next week, pictures would be good, stories, whatever, send them to the email address below. Next week is Mexico. And I'm going to be using some of my own pictures.
So there.
This week we are blessing Mauritius. Mauritius is a subtropical island country made up of several islands in the Indian Ocean. It's just over 700 miles east of Madagascar off the southeastern coast of Africa. It's about the same size as Maui in Hawaii, has 1.3 million people, making it the most densely populated country in Africa. They have a very diverse religious makeup, 49% Hindu, 26% Roman Catholic, 17% Muslim, 6% other Christian, and it is the only African country with Hinduism as a dominant religion. They are truly a people of diversity.
Sounds like it. Wow.
They're also very diverse culturally, and that arose from Dutch, French, and British colonizations over time, African slaves that were brought in, and Indian and Chinese indentured laborers that were brought in after slavery was abolished. La Mornay Brabant is a beautiful mountain and a popular tourist attraction, but it has a sad history. In the 18th and 19th centuries, it became a refuge for escaped slaves because the trails were extremely steep and difficult to climb. On February 1st, 1835, slavery in Mauritius was abolished. So several soldiers began the treacherous climb up the mountain to tell the slaves that they were free. But many of the slaves assumed the soldiers were coming to recapture them, and they jumped off the side of the mountain, choosing death over slavery. There is now a monument at the base of the mountain, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mauritius is now a very peaceful country, rarely having any conflicts, and they don't even have an army. Over 90% of the people are literate, and the life expectancy is 75 years. And it's the only known location of the now extinct dodo. That was a large flightless bird that was thought to have evolved from pigeons and was last seen in the 1660s. And our last fact, this is cool. Mauritius has received the World's Leading Island Destination Award 3 times in the last 10 years. It is so beautiful and peaceful that Mark Twain had this to say about it. Mauritius was made first, and then heaven, and heaven was copied after Mauritius. That's quite the compliment. Yeah. So, let's hold the people of Mauritius in our hearts, knowing they want the same things in their lives that we want in ours. We wish them continued peace, continued abundance and love, and we send these good energy waves to them, and we say these words together. May peace prevail in Mauritius. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in me.
Slipped over those words, didn't I?
So, thank you.
All right. First, we'll hear from Keith Leon. And again, we're going to get videos from Keith this time, not his normal personal interaction with us. He's got some things in the family that are pulling him away, and we send love and energy to the Leon family. And then we will hear from Sensei David Vititoe on compassion. So without further ado, let's dive right in.
When you're down and in trouble and you need a helping hand, oh, and nothing's going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to blow. Oh, keep your head together now and call my name out loud, 'cause soon I'll be knocking upon your door. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, oh, I'm gonna come running. I'll come running to see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, fall. All you gotta do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. Oh, ain't it good to know that you got a friend? 'Cause people can be so cold, yeah. They'll hurt you and desert you. They'll take your soul if you let them. Oh, don't you let them. No, you just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'm gonna be there. Yes, I will. You got a friend, oh, you got a friend. Ain't it good to know you got a friend? So good to know you got a friend, oh, you got a friend. There's a part of me knows the answer to every question before I ask it. There's a part of you that knows the answer to every question before you ask it. 'Cause we are one. We are one, we are one, and we know what to do. We are one, we are one, we are one, and we know what to do. There's a part of me knows what to say before I open my mouth to speak. And there's a part of you that knows what to say before you open your mouth to speak. 'Cause we are one. We are one, we are one, and we know what to say. We are one. We are one. receiving. We are one as we walk through our day. Believing, yes, we are one. 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 And we know what to do.
Hello again. It's David Vititoe with Open Mind Zen. Got a nice topic today, compassion. So what Zen practitioner doesn't want to talk about compassion? So I will say, though, that my main motivation for this talk is really not necessarily from Buddhism. Because there are a lot of wonderful teachers out there that speak on this topic, that teach on this topic, that practice or offer workshops on this topic. And there's one that I ran across a while ago. It was back when I was doing a little research into the MBSR program, mindfulness-based stress reduction. And found a nice online version of that course, and it pointed to a particular online video, YouTube video, and it was a TED Talk by Shauna Shapiro. Shauna, Shauna Shapiro. And I'll try to provide some links to some of her work, but psychologist, researcher, number of books, her talks are outstanding. And so actually I draw a lot of inspiration from some of the talks that I've seen of hers online. And so, so I'll draw on that for today. So, it's a compassion, short version, right? Suffering with, compassion, suffering with. So, it's more than just empathy. You know, empathy is really to feel what another person's feeling. Compassion goes a little deeper. And there's this sense of a need or willingness to act. You know, pity is just to, oh, you poor thing, to kind of keep yourself removed, right? Empathy, you're really diving in and you're really feeling what the other person's feeling. What are they experiencing? What is going on for them in this moment? Compassion is one step further. Can I be with that person? Sometimes that's all that's needed. Can I act? All right, what does right action mean in that moment? So with compassion, there's this sense of this motivation to want to help. Now, something that's important to remember, though, is that sometimes helping means doing nothing. Sometimes compassion just means bearing witness. Just being with somebody. Sometimes that can be very powerful, just to be with somebody as they're going through whatever it is they're going through. Sometimes action is required. It takes some real practice, discernment, wisdom sometimes to really know which way to go with this practice, but compassion. So, true compassion reaches out to all people, no matter whether they are your friends or not, whether you agree with them or not, whether they're human or not. Compassion isn't confined to this human vessel of ours, right? Can you practice compassion for all beings, for the earth, for the environment? My question to you is, where does compassion stop? Well, it doesn't have to stop anywhere. Often it feels like it does stop. So compassion is something to cultivate. In my experience, and I think some of the research backs this up, is that at our core, we are compassionate. At our core, we naturally connect with other people. At our core, we naturally work with our tribe, right? Our people, our friends, our family, and we want to care for them. We want to be with them. We want to help them. And over time, this really does extend to all beings. But often things get in the way. This is that ego side, right? Rushing around, goal-oriented, fear, trauma, all these things kind of lay over the top and hide this natural tendency of ours to be compassionate. And so often we have to return home. We have to engage in practices not to gain compassion, but to slowly let go of all of these other things that are covering up our natural home state, our natural place of compassionate action. And so that's why we practice. That's why we practice, is to come home, come back to that state. I often see this term self-compassion. That's actually not a thing. Compassion, by definition, requires requires another person, right? Compassion, right, is to share the suffering with someone else. So often when folks say self-compassion, what they really mean is self-love, self-kindness, self-understanding. And those are all wonderful things to cultivate in your own life. But they're a little different. Compassion is somebody else, another being, and you're connecting with that other being, right? You're there with them in that time of need. Now there's some interesting things I'll talk about later about this idea of self-compassion, because it's what I said is not exactly accurate. There are some cases where you can think of practice as self-compassion, but I'll come back to that. Those are a little more subtle. But as I talked about, there's a lot of things that just get in the way. I am convinced that compassion is one of those natural states. In Buddhism, we talk about Buddha nature. It is your Buddha nature. Christianity, you may say you were made in the image of God. Well, that is, among other things, compassionate. So our practice, spiritual practice, is really about coming back to that. But fortunately, there are some specific techniques that actually can bring this about, can cultivate this, can cause you to return to that state and really foster compassion and other positive attributes in your life. And we're seeing this both in some religious traditions, such as Buddhism, such as Zen in particular, but we're seeing experiment now in neuropsychology that's backing this up. And what they're finding, and Dr. Shapiro talks about this quite a bit, is that mindfulness practice, meditation in particular, can increase your capacity or your connection to your ability to share compassion, to hold compassion, and to act based upon the compassion that you have within you. And so I found there's a few examples of experiments. One I found from a Paul Condon. I didn't catch the year or where this was. I used to know this off the top of my head, but I've forgotten. But they recruited 39 people from Boston area who had never meditated before and assigned them to one of two experimental groups. Right? You always have to have the control group and the group you're experimenting with, so you can compare. So those in the first group completed an 8-week meditation course led by a Buddhist Lama. And those in the second group were placed on a wait list for the course. So the second group hadn't gone through the course, hadn't had any practice in meditation. This is our control group. Now, they didn't know they were the control group, of course. So after the 8 weeks had passed and the first group had finished the meditation course, the participants returned to the lab one by one, supposedly to complete some measures of attention and memory. Right, that's what they were told they were testing: memory, right, attention. In reality, what they were testing in the waiting room was a little different. So, so they didn't have enough chairs. There are just enough chairs in the room for the participants. So after a few minutes, each participant arrived, took a seat. So there's no more seats. And then a third actor appeared, this one on crutches, wearing a boot on their foot, pretending to have a broken foot. And wincing in pain, and upon arriving, she leaned against the wall, sighing audibly as there was nowhere for her to sit. So by design, the other actors in the room with the participants ignored her. The other actors ignored her. They kept looking through their books or their smartphones, and they paid no mind to what was going on with her. So the bystander effect. If no one else is helping, why should you, or should you? So in this experiment, for the participants that didn't meditate, the bystander effect was very strong. Only 16% of the subjects, 3 out of 19, offered their chair to the actor who was on crutches. Of those who had meditated, half, 10 out of 20, immediately and spontaneously offered their seat to the woman. So there's 2 things in here that are interesting. One, just that practice of meditation, right? Open their hearts, right? Hold off that covering, that veil of the ego mind, the stress, the fear, the frustrations, the daily grind that sits over top and obscures that open heart, that compassionate nature. So meditation kind of pierces through, transcends that, uncovers us, if you will, and from that space, half of the people offered to help. So 1, meditation can help build this. But 2, the other that's interesting here is that bystander effect. We are heavily influenced by the people around us. So if people around us, right, we're in a group where compassion, loving kindness, all of these other wonderful traits are being practiced, being demonstrated, it's very easy for us to also participate. It can be difficult when you are alone, when others are not practicing it. There's a natural tendency, if you're not aware, to follow the crowd. And we do it without even thinking. It's just part of our psychology. And so one reason why I like to bring this up is knowing this tendency, knowing that we have this tendency, in a sense, inoculates you to it just a bit. If I'm aware that I have a tendency to follow the crowd, as a mammal, as a person, I tend to follow those around me. Now I can notice that and ask, is that right for this moment? And if I see somebody in pain, I don't have to follow others. I can be that one person who stands up and offers their chair. I like that experiment. It points out that practice sometimes takes courage, sometimes takes courage. But mindfulness can help you grow compassion, right? Cultivate compassion. And Dr. Shapiro talks a lot about neuroplasticity, meaning that the neural pathways in our minds can change. They change rapidly when we're very young and growing, and they slow down when we're older, but they still maintain the ability to change and adapt. And so what you practice is what you become. What you practice is what you become. I said neuroplasticity. And I've seen this in my own life. The more I practice, the more I take on those qualities or traits, or the more I'm able to transcend all of the things that are getting in the way of those traits and qualities of that essential nature that we all have, right? So, uh, so I recommend, highly recommend some sort of mindfulness practice in your life. It helps with compassion. It helps with so many different things. And at first, that mindfulness practice is sitting on a cushion or sitting on the chair. Later, it's expanded beyond this. Mindfulness becomes your way of life, right? Everything you do in life is an opportunity to be mindful. Everything you do is an opportunity to realize that you're being caught up in the day-to-day and you've forgotten, right? What's there underneath? Loving kindness, the compassion, that core nature that is under it all, the core nature that connects us to each other, connects us to the universe. So she talks about, and I like this a lot. That's why I'm talking about some of her stuff. What we practice becomes stronger. So our habit patterns, we have so often we go through life by these habits that we form kick in. And it's just a natural process in the mind, because if you think about it, if you had to think through every detail of everything you do in your life, it would be exhausting. Right? You don't have to think about walking. You don't have to think about what you do for breakfast. And often we don't think about how we treat or interact with other people. Right? Habits, the habits that we form, the patterns that we built in make it easier for us to think about higher level things. So it's important, it's valuable, but it's also very important to kind of look at, well, what are those habits? And where should some of those habit patterns be adjusted? Right? Do I have a habit pattern of judgment? Do I have a habit of being fearful? Do I have a habit of showing loving kindness? What is your habit? And what we practice becomes stronger. What we practice becomes stronger. So the example or the analogy that I like is, imagine a grass field. And I walk across that field. Maybe the grass is really tall. It's hard to make your way across that field. That's when we first start to practice. And then later we make our way back down that same path. And it's still pretty hard at the beginning. But after a while, a path slowly starts to wear in that grass. And after a while, that path is clear and wide and easy to follow. And that's the practice. That's the practice of compassion. That's the practice of loving kindness. That is your spiritual practice. You must walk that path. Broaden that path. Form the habit patterns that have value, right? The habit patterns that allow you to present yourself in the world with loving kindness and compassion, and to act from that place. Imagine if that is so ingrained. Loving kindness and compassion is so ingrained that it's natural. That is your starting point. Imagine your life at that point. All the things that you would then do if that is your starting point. Instead of fear or judgment or trauma, working with that, working through that, and then shifting, right? We can't suppress, but shifting to that habit pattern of loving kindness, of compassion. Slowing down. This is another practice he talks about. Mindfulness helps us to slow down. When we hurry, we often act from that ego perspective, right? We're caught up in our mind, and we often lose touch of that essential nature that we have. So slowing down gives us the chance to connect with ourselves, gives us a chance to reflect and understand our interdependence on all things, gives us a chance to touch our essential nature. And Dr. Shapiro actually gives another reference from a study she did with seminary students. she gave the seminaries, or they gave the seminary students a topic. What does it mean to be a good Samaritan? So they were all building this talk on this particular topic. And of course, they split them into two groups. And one group, they told them, oh, you got to hurry. You got to get across campus because it's almost time to give your talk. And so off they went. The other group, at another time, they said, you have plenty of time. Here's where your talk needs to be. Just make your way there, and we'll be there ready to hear your talk. So one group was hurrying, and the other was taking its time. And they'd set this up so that one person in the group would trip and fall on the way. And she talks about how the ones that had that goal, I've got to get there, I've got to go, now they're in a hurry, that for the most part, they left that person behind because they were in such a hurry they couldn't stop to help that person. The other group, where they had time, somebody falls, just about everybody stops, helps this person back up, and off they go. So when we are hurried, that ego side of us takes over, that goal-oriented side of us takes over. And again, that's not a bad thing. That's essential for our survival and natural functioning. But there's a tendency for that, for us to overlook opportunities to be compassionate, opportunities to be caring, opportunities to help others. So slowing down, and that can be difficult. This is one of my key practices. Can I slow down? Spent all my life moving quickly. Can I slow down? And what does that mean in different aspects of your life? Also, how does mindfulness help build compassion? She talks about how mindfulness gives us this sense of interdependence, right? We are not alone. I think most people in the world consider themselves alone. You are not. Think of children, grandchildren, spouses, parents, that cycle of life. I'm in that interesting spot now where I'm in that caregiver spot where I have older parents that I care for, and I have children, I have grandchildren that I also help care for. It makes you very reflective when you're in that sweet spot, knowing that it's a cycle. It's an ongoing, beautiful cycle. But it's beyond that, right? We are breathing the oxygen right now, the same oxygen that Aristotle or Gandhi breathed. We share. The dinosaurs, for that matter. We are all intimately connected. And from that place of interdependence, right, how can we not be compassionate? How can we not show loving kindness? So it's a beautiful thing. And finally, let me come back to that idea of self-compassion. So let me qualify what I was saying before. So technically, self-compassion isn't a thing because compassion requires another being, right, to connect with, right, to share with. But that's not entirely true, because I think often we are stuck living with past versions of ourselves. Maybe it's that child that grew up and was bullied or abused, or maybe it's some struggle that we had in the past that was really a difficult time in your life, but because of that, every time something similar happens, now you go back to that place and here we go again. I think we all do this. This is another part of human nature. We live often in the past. And so one practice that I think is critical, vital, that I highly recommend is don't suppress that aspect of yourself. Examine it. See if you can look at it from a perspective of compassion. That past self, all the things that it was going through, all the things that it was dealing with, see if you can, as part of your practice, whether that's prayer or meditation, See if you can look back on yourself and have compassion for that past you. Love, kindness for that past version of you. That version of you that's no longer here, but yet is still holding on. That part of you that, while no longer here, developed habit patterns that may have been important at that time, helped you to survive that moment in the past, but maybe have left you with habits, patterns that aren't always helpful now. You often see this in relationships. And so there's a wonderful practice where you really examine that past self and really work on showing loving kindness and compassion toward that past self. Not to suppress it, but to merge, maybe transcend, become one with different aspects of this. And all of that leads to healing. Now that's an advanced practice. So I highly, highly recommend, I think I say that a lot. Please find a teacher to work with on this. I do work with individuals. If you're interested in finding more about that sort of practice, contact me through the pod, Open Mind Zen down in Melbourne. Because often that sort of practice does require guidance. It can be very difficult to work that yourself. But that's all part of the practice of uncovering all of the things that are getting in the way of what's naturally there. Loving kindness, compassion, who you are as a child of the universe. The universe isn't out there. The universe is here. It's here. Right? So let's try a short meditation practice. And instead of working with compassion, let's just work basic mindfulness. Mindfulness will build compassion over time. So let's start with mindfulness. So settle in. Close your eyes. Just take a couple deep breaths. Go ahead and just feel every breath. Just feel it down to your toes, each breath. Hear it, feel it, taste it. Breathing in life. Exhaling life. And I invite you to audibly breathe out. Just feel the breath as it leaves your mouth. And purse your lips, almost like you're blowing through a straw. Feel it. Hear it. Be it. Nothing else in this moment, just breath. And maybe bring your attention to the sensation of gravity, your body pressing down against the floor or the chair, wherever you're sitting. Just feel the comfort of that support as it presses up and holds you in that position while you breathe. Supported below, supported from within. Just bring your attention to your forehead and kind of scan around the top of your head, looking for any tension. Nothing to do, nothing to change. Just notice if there's any tension. You're working your way down the sides of your face, your jaw, your lips, your neck. You move your head ever so slightly. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you hear? You just try smiling. How does that feel? What does that change? Always breathing. Maybe noticing your chest and your stomach moving in and out. Maybe even noticing the sensation of the clothing against your skin as you breathe. And finally, just hold your whole body in your mind's eye. Just notice. Hold yourself in kindness. Hold yourself with love. If you breathe in, go ahead. As you're ready, you can open your eyes. Good. So again, if you'd like to try any of these practices, sometimes one-on-one individualized practice can be important. So I am always available for that. I love doing talks, but for me, the real practice is that one-on-one interaction between teacher and student that leads to their own personal practice, that student's own personal practice. And something I've done for years. I have my own teacher. I meet regularly with my teacher, and that funnels into my own practice. And so if you're interested, feel free to contact me or any of the other teachers. One of the other spiritual disciplines calls to you more. Reach out. We're here. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Keith. We appreciate you taking a few minutes out to make sure we were covered this week, and I know this is a tough time for you, so thank you very much. We appreciate it. Sensei Dave, you're just awesome. We love you. Always. Every time. So thank you, sir. And big thanks to Philip and his team for putting this together, taking all the pieces and parts and putting it into something that is actually coherent. We appreciate that so much. And so if you're out there in the world and you have needs either virtually or in person, Philip and his team can set you up, so just contact him. Following the morning service, we'll have from 11:45 to 12:15, we'll have our Zoom deep dive. As Scott said, Sensei Dave very often can join us for that, and that's a lot of fun. And even if the speakers can't join us, we still chat and share our thoughts and ask questions of each other. So it's very interesting and fun. And we shut it off right at 12:15. So on Sunday evening, 5:45, rebroadcast the morning service, and you can get in the chat window and shoot hearts and do those sorts of things. So we appreciate that. And it's also, don't forget that the service is on the People of Diversity YouTube channel in the morning. Next week we will have a Melchizedek Christian perspective from Reverend Salidia Junis, all the way from New York. And our first time is Leanne Nelson Allen doing our music. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait to hear her. So,
all right, www.peopleofdiversity.org. Again, that's where you can go if you want to make a deeper commitment to the process here. Tithe, donate, offer, whatever word works for you. We encourage you to do it, and we are grateful for it. Let's take a moment and come together in gratitude for that. If you'll plant your feet on the ground, close your eyes if you choose to. Spirit, thank you for all the people that come together to create these amazing Sunday services. Thank you for all the people that come to receive these Sunday services. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of it, and for all that comes to support it. We are very grateful. And together we say amen.
Amen.
All right. Don't click off. One of the important parts of the service is now. If you will bring to your mind's eye anyone in your world that needs support, healing, love, connection, bring them to a circle, a central circle where we can all gather, and put yourself in that circle, and we'll push light and love and strength into that circle for everyone to tap into. And let's not forget to put the people who are running the planet at this moment in that circle as well. They need help.
I'd also like to remind you to put Keith Leon and his family in the circle. And also I have great news. A couple of weeks ago we put Donna Frost's dad, I believe he had a stroke, in the circle. He's been in the hospital for quite a while, but he has now come home and is doing very well. So yeah, let's keep the Donna Frost and her dad and their family in the circle as well. So
have an amazing week. We'll see you soon.
thank you.
One power, one power, one power, one power, one power, one power. There's one power invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth, as simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of